Welcome to today's webinar, How One RIA is Building a Next Generation Wealth Management Firm. I'm your host, Andy Finnegan, the marketing lead of Nebo Wealth. I'm coming to you from GMO's new Boston offices with some spectacular views. For those unfamiliar with us, Nebo Wealth is an award-winning open architecture asset management platform that represents a leap forward in goals-based wealth management. Our pioneering approach to asset allocation and portfolio design delivers the personalization that clients expect with the scale and the efficiency that advisors demand. Nebo Wealth was developed and sits within a leading global asset management firm, GMO. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Brandon Kramer, portfolio manager at Hexamer Investment Management. Brandon is one of the most tech-savvy, innovator advisors that I know, and I'm really thrilled to be speaking with you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Andy.
You're welcome, yeah. To really set the stage for the conversation today, Brandon, could you share a little bit more about your background, what makes you you, and what led you to your role at Hexamer?
Yeah, absolutely. I like to kind of joke that at a young age, I'm already on my second career. I was a history major in school, which led to a job at a museum after graduating. But not too long after that, I went back to grad school to study finance. And that's where I met John Oshner, who's our firm's owner, president, and lead financial planner today, and one of my friends. And John and I, we were study mates in the program on Team Newman was the name of our group. And John saw that, I always did what I said I was going to do when I said I was going to do it. And because of that, he ended up offering me an internship at his RIA, which was kind of my start in finance. And during that internship, we also studied for CFA Level 1 together. And following the internship, John kind of laid out to me what his succession plan that he was working on with Wendell Hexamer, who was our founder. And he had a vision to build a firm rather than work as a solo advisor. And the goal was always to be a team-based approach serving clients. And he wanted to work with people that he could trust. And that was almost 8 years ago from today.
Nice. Well, talk a little bit more about the history of Hexamer. I am especially curious about the experience and what it was like to have been on your side of the succession plan. What was the aha moment that you and John had about the type of client experience you wanted to create?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, so Wendell started Hexamer Investment Management inside of his accounting practice that he also founded. So the changes to the tax code in the 1980s, though, kind of reduced his interest in doing taxes anymore. So he eventually broke away to focus just on investing money for individuals and organizations. However, and this is a core piece of what we do today as well, his investing approach was always very tax aware. And, that was a key value add that he had before it was table stakes for pretty much all advisors today. I think every advisor knows that that's a big part of what they do and the value they can offer their clients. John started with Wendell in 2012 after getting a CFP, which brought a lot more of the financial planning elements to the business rather than just the investment part. And Wendell then retired in 2019. At that time, I think getting to the aha moment, John and I started to kind of reevaluate our tech stack. And we also went through a lot of practice management and leadership sessions. And our goal was to come out of that with, building a strategic plan and how can we use technology in particular to automate a lot of our operations, because we were relatively young, relatively tech savvy. We think that we can do things very efficiently. And the end goal was always, how do we focus on making our time focused on the investment decisions and meeting with clients? And one of the outcomes of that, I think that kind of sums this up really well, is there's a quote on our office wall, just as people enter our offices, that says the most damaging phrase in the language is, it's always been done that way.
I absolutely love that quote. And when you were talking about you and John spending time meeting with clients and the investments, it makes me think of an analogy I tell my 4-year-old daughter all the time. I'm a #girl dad. And when I talk to her at dinner about what I do for work, Daddy works with money doctors. That's what I think of you and John. And what
Nice.
you do, you're money doctors, and doctors go from patient room or treatment room to treatment room. And you want to talk to the patient, but you're not the people that are actually booking the meetings and doing all the administrative stuff. We want to help you leverage your time to do what matters most. And that quote, by the
Yeah.
way, is total dynamite. So I appreciate that background and the context. And, next kind of thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to paraphrase something you've said, and I think it's
Mhm.
powerful. I'm going to share it on the screen so the viewers can read it with me. Before Nebo, we customized client portfolios around 5 proprietary model allocations. Now with Nebo, we're able to deliver over 100 unique, personalized client model portfolios, truly elevating the client experience without taking any more time or resources before. Can you tell us a little bit more about how Nebo helped Hexamer apply a personalized approach at scale?
Yeah, I like to say that Nebo helped us get back to our founders' roots while not losing the operational efficiency that we had with model portfolios, for example. So Window had a very personalized approach by client for many years, and then John and I started to introduce model portfolios in 2017. But we found that so many clients had such personalized needs that you always ended up having a lot of constraints around the model anyways. And at that time as well, concurrently we saw trading technology was also improving very quickly for advisors, as many advisors will know. And Nebo being able to integrate with our trading platform was a key feature for us and part of our vision and what we saw the value of it was.
And I got to give huge kudos to you and John to see that vision and how you give each and every client their very own model, one that's 100% in sync with what they want their lives to look at. And the single biggest trend that I'm hearing from advisors, and I'm the front door for all these intro calls, going to all these conferences. I've been on financial Twitter for years and years and years, on LinkedIn, and the mantra is personalization, personalization, personalization. And when you think about it, end consumers now expect personalization in every other area of their life. Their Starbucks order, ads on different platforms. So why wouldn't they want it from their wealth manager or their money doctor, And personalization doesn't mean a personalized financial plan, but then everybody gets one of the same 5 flavors of ice cream on the shelf. And when it comes to investing, personalization means moving beyond simple risk scores and standard model portfolios. And I believe you and I and Hexamer were in lockstep on that.
Absolutely.
So changing gears a little bit, I have to bring up a really interesting story you told me. I think we both refer to it as the 2-client problem. And we wrote about this at GMO a decade ago in a white paper by Ben Inker and by Martin Tarley, who is the product lead and the main person behind Nebo, the main brain, investing for retirement. And I'm just going to share on the screen right now a quote or two from that. A 25-year-old should invest aggressively because of her circumstances, not because of her personality. A 75-year-old should invest more conservatively because of needs and circumstances. So can you elaborate more on how you think about the 2-client problem in that context?
Yeah, I think we're certainly not going to be the first advisor to experience this or notice this, but anecdotally, we saw this almost immediately with our model portfolios. We added 2 new clients not long after starting model portfolios, and client A in their 30s and client B in their 60s, much closer to retirement, obviously. And our risk tolerance questionnaire at the time, showed that both clients had a very similar willingness to take risk. So they should be in the same model portfolio. And the problem with this, which many advisors will see and some client prospects or clients might see as well, is, it's time horizon. It doesn't consider the time horizon. And in my opinion, while both clients feasibly could have a similar equity exposure because of their risk tolerance, they should not have the same allocation to things like cash or liquid alternatives, diversifiers of the portfolio, which they would get from at least the model portfolio approach that we were taking, unless we applied constraints. So in summation, their needs are different, and Nebo allows us to meet those personalized needs without just layering these constraints around an existing model that we already had in place.
And actually, that reminds me of something that we on the team were talking about the other day over lunch. When you think about retirement date target funds. You can have two different clients of the same age, but very different circumstances, and they both end up with the same portfolio based on time horizon only. And my dad runs a direct mail company in New Jersey, and new employee comes in based on their age, 401k plan, bang, target date fund. Then conversely, you can have another two clients in the advisory model, completely different ages, different income levels, saving rates, account balances, etc. And yet, because they answered a risk tolerance questionnaire in a similar manner, they too end up in the same portfolio. And what I'm sharing on screen is just an example of how you can have four unique individuals, four unique human beings, and based on certain characteristics, they're just lumped into a, let's say, 60-40 type model. Does this capture kind of what we're talking about, the two client problem? And if assuming yes, how does Hexamer solve for this?
Yeah. This is definitely part of it as well. So two clients with the same time horizon might have very different needs, goals, or also starting assets. What is the asset base that they're starting with? And Nebo helps us solve for the client's required return, which backs into that personalized asset allocation once again. So for example, so how we're solving this is a client with, say, small cash needs or a large asset base might not need that higher return target, even if their time horizon is identical to, say, client B, for example. Client B might have larger cash needs or a smaller base. So I think the technical term here, or maybe the book term, is standard of living risk. And what Nebo does for us, by helping us solve for that required return, we can still build a portfolio for that client that matches with their standard of living risk as well, even though maybe their time horizon is the same.
That's excellent. Let's talk a little bit about investments now and how you think about building portfolios. I'm thinking specifically about the dynamic approach you take, utilizing the institutional expertise delivered through Nebo Wealth and also the kind of GMO firepower that you have at your fingertips.
Yeah, this takes me back a little bit, because John and I, we spent several years kind of getting down into the weeds on capital market assumptions or expected returns that are produced by all the big asset managers, reviewing, what are the best ones, who's done the best job forecasting. And coming out of 2020, many investment strategists believe that bonds were overpriced. But if you blindly followed, a lot of the capital market assumptions out there, you would have still ended up with a pretty big weight to bonds in a model portfolio, which is what our model portfolios were doing as well. So I think in particular, if I were to zero in on one thing, I think Nebo's approach to modeling bonds and time horizon has really added a lot of value to our portfolios and improved what we're doing. And we feel that, today we're delivering a far more personalized portfolio with an institutional quality investment approach. And when we're talking to a prospective client, for example, we can point to the depth of expertise at Nebo and GMO that runs the engine of our investment process now.
So if a new client were to join your firm, they walk into your front door down in Ohio, how do you incorporate current market conditions into the personalized advice that you deliver?
Yeah, when Nebo was introduced to me, I think the first thing that really stood out was philosophically, we were so much in sync, because our model portfolios were driven by valuations today, expected returns in the future. And what Nebo did, or improved on our process or iterated on it, was almost immediately we could see the impact, because we were going to get daily expected returns. Whereas historically, we had been using expected returns from big asset managers that are typically published maybe semi-annually or annually. So the impact, to answer the question, the impact on a new client starting with us mid-year, it could be huge, especially in a really volatile year like 2020 or 2022, where expected returns or markets are shifting so fast that being able to allocate them based on today's expectations and not expectations that we maybe built 6 months ago. So it does have a huge impact.
So that's a good segue into my next point I wanted to talk about, where at the core of financial planning and building personalized portfolios, it's really about getting the client's asset allocation right. How do you approach this?
Yeah, I think so. Traditionally, financial planning software takes in a client's needs, wants, wishes, and then combines it with an asset allocation, which is chosen based on, say, the risk tolerance questionnaire. And then the output of the financial planning software that you get is typically something called a probability of success. What Nebo does is kind of it adds to that. So with Nebo, the inputs are still the needs, wants, and wishes, just like with your financial planning software, but the output is the asset allocation and the probability of success. So you're getting 2 for 1, and it really personalizes that asset allocation. So I've not seen any other technology providers that are able to do this. Certainly willing to be proven wrong, but I think this was the first of its kind in this particular realm.
Excellent. And I'm delighted to hear you say that. And from our point of view, speaking to advisors all the time, I'm just glad that we could be part of a solution that can help you be better advisors and deliver better advice to the end client. And I really love the concept of connecting financial planning with asset management. And I just got to share this photo on screen because this picture really illustrates the breadth and the depth of the collaboration that we've had in Nebo Wealth with Hexamer. And this is from John. So founder, you work very close with him. We talked about him earlier. He laser engraved 3 coasters for us made from a tree from his family's farm with our iconic gear graphic. The gear graphic, and we use it in every presentation where you have financial planning on one side, you have asset management on the other side, and where Nebo Wealth fits is right in the middle to connect the two. And I still remember walking to our old offices at Rose Wharf and got that in the mail, and I opened it, and I was just, I literally use that coaster every day with my venti iced Americano black from Starbucks, literally every day. So I love it.
Nice. I've got a few things made by John in my office too. So
You have a personal favorite?
he made us all pencils. So we got pencils. So I think that was a cool one. So yeah.
Without derailing this, I remember, I think it was about a pencil. There was a study where if you had to actually make a pencil, how complicated it is to actually make a pencil when you think about just the assembly line of different resources from the beginning to the actual end state of what a pencil is and how specialized the world has gotten. That's going to completely derail us, but if you wanted to look at it on Google, it's a pretty cool read. I bet you there's a TED Talk about it. So coming back into this, in practice, how does connecting financial planning with asset management work with your clients? And right now I'm thinking specifically about investment policy statements.
Yeah. When we have a new client, we've always, and to this day, we always start with what's the game plan. So we build a game plan for the client. We make sure it's in writing. It's something we can revisit when times are emotional, for example. Really helps the client, stay invested. Is keep talking about that game plan. Historically, we might have started with a new client in, say, their 40s and drafting an investment policy statement that lines up with something like an 80-20 portfolio and a target return akin to an 80-20 portfolio. And then when the client gets, say, closer to retirement, you might write a new investment policy statement, which uses a 60-40 portfolio and a target return and income akin to the 60-40 portfolio. But with Nebo, where we've improved a little bit is, we're able to incorporate a glide path for the assets in the original game plan that we build for the client, which already accounts for these multiple time horizons and dynamic goals that somebody has through their investment life, which I think is a really cool addition to our game plan.
Yeah, and you just said something really interesting. So let me try to say it back to you and tell me if this captures the key point. And I'm thinking of a saying by Carl Richards. I bet you a lot of the folks here are familiar with him. He's an influential advisor. He's known for making really complex financial concepts easy to understand. And he's developed a phrase that resonates with me. Financial advisors are guides in a changing landscape, not the defenders of an outdated map. And that's how I think about how you've incorporated the thought of a glide path, multi-period, guides.
Yeah, that's great. That's spot on. So it's a better map. So yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. It's a better map, and you're also the end client has access to you as their guides,
Hmm.
or money doctors. And as we wrap up, Brandon, this is a really insightful conversation. I hope that folks are enjoying this. I'm curious, what do you see as one of the most thoughtful advisors I know who reads everything? What do you see as the future of wealth management? And how do you think Nebo continues to play a crucial role in shaping that future alongside what you're doing at Hexamer?
Yeah, there's certainly been a few academic articles that have come across my desk in the last, say, 5 years about this concept of personalized glide paths. Sorry for the jargon, but it's almost like a target date fund specific to each individual. And I think that's the future of wealth management. And Nebo seems to be one of the first to get kind of the technology and the modeling right here.
Without naming names, you'd be willing to just give us an example?
Yeah, I remember a paper specifically that talked about how personalized glide paths can really improve outcomes for people who see drastic changes during their career. So for example, someone who sees, say, a doubling of their salary overnight, or maybe it's somebody who conversely, is leaving the workforce for a couple of years. I think most people's careers are not linear, which I think is how a traditional target date fund or glide path might treat them. And Nebo allows us to treat that a little bit differently, because very, very few cases are actually linear or straight up.
I love that concept. And in fact, one of our visions and big goals, future, is to help advisors create a dynamic, custom target date and personalized portfolio for every person in the country. I know it sounds ambitious and future. Brandon, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Feel free to tell listeners where they can find out more about you and what you're working on at Hexamer.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. This has been great. And Hexamer.net is our website, but also feel free to message me on LinkedIn. Prospects or advisors. I love the questions I get about Nebo. It helps me kind of check my own biases in a lot of ways. I've maybe drank the Kool-Aid and understand what's going on and that kind of thing. But I'm always open to new ideas and love to hear from people.
And for those listening, give me an example of the type of clients you work with.
Yeah, so for us, many of our clients and prospects approach us when they're starting to think about retirement, because we can help just about anybody get clarity on how much money can they live on and when can they retire, based on what their needs are. However, we've also done a really good job of connecting with the next generation too, and who have a different set of problems, obviously. So such as saving for a first house or kids' education.
I totally agree with both cases. I've also observed in the context of the next generation, if you're reading about some of the big shifts that are happening in wealth management with baby boomers and their kids are growing up in a digital world and having access to digital solutions in ways that you can communicate something like a Nebo. That just forms deeper connection with the boomer kids. And that, at least that's been my personal observation from advisors we work with. So it's pretty interesting to hear you have said that.
Yeah, we're all in on the technology, and how can we make that better for clients too?
100%. And just curious, do you use Nebo for all of your clients or just a small subset?
Yeah, the short answer is all of our clients. So it helps us. Nebo helps us give a young client, say, confidence in how much they're saving, or help them decide, hey, what age can I retire? Am I going to be able to retire early based on how much I'm saving today and how much I have? But likewise, it also helps us, give clients who are close to retirement or in retirement confidence that they won't run out of money either. So they can focus on being retired rather than their portfolio. I'd say, I guess, anecdotally, I know that Morningstar has written recently about how one of the problems that a lot of advisors have is they have clients who aren't spending enough in some cases. They have way more than they need and they could probably do more with it. And I think that Nebo can help give some of those types of people a little bit more confidence that, they're not going to run out of money either, at least from what I've seen. That's been, we've had both parts. We've had both types of conversations with clients where sometimes it's a little harder, sometimes it's a little easier, but Nebo helps in both cases.
I've been starting to hear that a lot too on advisor calls in the context of clients that they're just not spending enough. And to be able to say, you know what, you can spend an extra $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month, and you can still reach all of your goals, and your probability of success, if we're using that as a metric, it's still at 98%. But now you can take your grandkids to Disney World. Now you can take your wife on that Viking cruise in Europe, things like that. So it's not just about making sure I don't completely run out of money and bounce my last check. It's also, can I do the things that I really want to do when I retire, enjoy time with my family, creating experiences, etc.
Exactly.
And that's not all the time we have today. And to our viewers, be sure to follow all things Nebo Wealth on LinkedIn. Find out more on nebowealth.com. And if you're interested in experiencing the power of Nebo Wealth, please reach out for an interactive demo. We love talking to advisors, and I believe it's, win-win. We love learning from you, and I think you can learn from kind of the solutions we're building. So thanks a lot for tuning in. Enjoy your day. Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks, Andy.